Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful week. We're so excited for today's lesson. I see everyone's ready. Good morning, Miss Del Rosa's class. Good morning, Miss Chow's class. Good morning, Miss Rosa's class. Miss Calhoun's class. Good morning. Good morning, Mrs. Willis's class. All right, we're ready. Today we have a great lesson and a special guest teacher today. We have Mr. Ward, our math TOSA, coming to teach on Mathigon. So, Mr. Ward. Oh,
Good morning, friends. How you doing? I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of classrooms that I've had the pleasure of being in this year. Thank you. I see you. Thank you for being here. I will tell you, listen, we are going to be exploring a little bit of Mathigon, and maybe you are an expert already. Maybe you already know a lot of stuff about it, or maybe you're saying to yourself, I see it on ClassLink, but I don't know what it is yet. Either way, I hope we're going to get something out of our time together. So let me go ahead and share screen and get us all up to speed in terms of where we need to go so that we can be in the same place. Click share. So you probably see my screen, I hope. It looks something like this. It's ClassLink. And what I would like for us to do is to watch first, and then you will go there. So what I want you, and it's not going to take us long, we're just going to get into ClassLink. It's signing me in. Thank you for your patience. And once I'm there, I'm looking for what is Mathigon. Now, it may look slightly different because, again, your apps are going to be different, but we're looking for the one that looks something like this. It's a black with different colors. It kind of almost looks like there's a bunch of shapes going on there. And when you click on it, it's going to take you somewhere that looks like this. Okay? This is Mathigon. It's called the Math Playground because there's a lot of things that you can play with in here. In fact, we are going to start our time together doing some playing, but I really want to make sure you don't get lost here because there's so much that you could explore and do. And I know I've been in some of your classrooms, and I was remember being in one of your classrooms this year over there at Nelson, and one of my friends was telling me some of the things they did here with our activities. But we're going to specifically spend our time together in Launchpad. Can everyone, or sorry, in the Polypad? Can everyone say Polypad? Thank you. I see some of you that have followed directions. Appreciate you. We're going to go ahead and click on Polypad, and that is where we are going to go. So I'm going to give you a few moments to get there. If you are on a device, fantastic. If you are not, that is okay. We will be able to hopefully show some things anyways, but I really hope you, all of you, fourth and fifth graders, big responsible upper graders, can get here with me because I would love for you to do a lot of the math because I can show you a lot of what I know, but you know a lot of things too. And I want to give you that chance to showcase your brilliance.
can we give them a few seconds to get there?
No, that's what I'm doing.
On ClassLink?
That's what I'm doing.
And did everyone find Mathigon? Thumbs up?
So I'm looking for those of you that have your screens on. Thank you. See some thumbs up in Mrs. Chow's class. Thank you. See some friends in Mrs. Esparza's class. Good morning.
Mr. Ward, can you show them the icon again on
Sure,
ClassLink?
yeah, we'll go back.
Yes, thank you.
So when you're in ClassLink, friends, and I know some of us are barely getting there, and that's a-okay. You're looking for the icon that looks like this. It is called Mathigon. It is a black rectangle with a bunch of other shapes there. You might say a triangle and a square, and you're clicking on it. And when you click on it, it's going to take you to a screen that looks like something, oops, just kidding. Try this again. Like this probably. And once you get here, again, I don't want you to get lost. We're going to the Polypad. And if you forgot, it's a very here at the top, Polypad. There's other ways to get there, but that's probably my go-to method. And so I'm going to wait another moment, and then we're going to leap into it, okay? Because if you're still there, awesome, but I know some friends are just getting there. We just got to keep it moving along with our short time we have together today. All right, so here's the deal. If you are already here, fantastic. There is a lot of stuff to explore. I'm going to start off by saying we are going to go and deal with a lot today, some fractions. Maybe it's your favorite thing. Maybe it's not yet, but you can see I have colors. Someone might say it's red or burgundy or orange or red orange. I don't know if you can see this color here. I might call that yellow or yellow-orange. It says fractions. So I want you to do me a favor. I want you to find where that is, and I want you to click on it. If you're not there yet, I understand you're doing your best to get there. Follow along if you can. I see some of you have a device. Some of your devices look like they're closed in Miss Del Rosa's class. That would work, but I promise you it would be a lot better if you have your device open, or maybe it just looks that way from my silly screen. Click on fraction bars, and then click on fraction circles. You have two options there. You have fraction bars to play with, and you have fraction circles to play with. And I'm going to put a timer on for just 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not a long time, but this is 2 minutes for you to explore, for you to figure out. Now, if you've done already a lot of work here, I want to challenge you to find something that you didn't know yet. But if you haven't yet explored in Mathigon, and maybe you hadn't yet, I want to give you a chance to see what can it do. Now, are we playing around with geometry and numbers and algebra? No. They're limited to fractions because that's what we're spending our time together with. So again, you can play with the fraction bars, or you can play with the fraction circles. I'm going to start my handy dandy timer. 2 minutes around the clock. It's your chance to play. It's your chance to explore. It's your chance to learn something that you maybe didn't know yet. Thank you, teachers, for making sure our students are actually in fractions and not going somewhere else accidentally. While my students are exploring, I want to make sure I make it very clear to teachers, I did not generate or create a class for your students. Anyone and all people can access Mathigon. Of course, we can Google it, but we place things here in ClassLink to make it more accessible, both for teachers and students. So teachers, all you need to do is have your students click on Mathigon as we did, and they are on their way. They can explore and do a lot of different things. And while today we are focused on fractions, for all my teacher friends out there, I want you to know that there is so much more. This is just the very tip of the iceberg. I hope to have probably a workshop at some point this year so that we can dig deeper, but even that in of itself probably wouldn't be enough because there's just so much here that we really aren't tapping into yet. Maybe you are already using Mathigon, and I have a feeling that there might be some things that we don't know yet still because we're always learning new things, myself included. Have about 1 more minute for those students that are playing, and I know it sounds silly. You can learn by playing. Yes, you are, I hope. Just know, friends, that we're going to come back together, students, and we're going to hopefully showcase maybe some things that you learned and maybe share with a friend something you learned. But I need to make sure that you are trying and playing. Again, we're playing around with fractions in Mathigon, seeing what we can learn. Don't forget that challenge. If you're saying to yourself, Mr. Ward, I've been doing Mathigon fractions for a while now. You came and showed it in my class, or my teacher showed it to me on our own. Fantastic. Challenge yourself. Is there something new that you can find? I learned something new the other day from a student. I was at a school and they're like, did you know it could do this? Now I do. That is my timer, which means here's the deal. If you are still working, put your hands high in the sky so that we're not working for the time being. Just a quick moment. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for following directions. So many classrooms. Here's what I need you to do. I want to see if you can pair up with a partner. Maybe it's your shoulder or elbow partner. And what I want you to do is show them one thing that you maybe learned or discovered. And if you're saying, Mr. Ward, I didn't learn something new today, maybe just show them one thing you're really proud of when it comes to Mathigon and, if possible, fractions. Okay. So you show them one thing, and then I want your partner to show you one thing. So we're just getting a chance to explain and showcase what you already know to a friend. So go ahead, take a moment, pair up if you could. If it needs to be a pair of 3, I appreciate you teachers for helping us out there. Make it work, however that means for you. And we're showcasing, show me one thing you learned to teach a friend. Because even though we all have teachers in the room, I believe whether you have 24 or 34 students in your class, there are a lot more teachers on deck. Oh, look at Mrs. Ross's class. I love it. I can see some friends pointing and explaining. Amazing stuff. Love it. What else do we have? I'm looking around. Oh, I see Mrs. Calhoun's class. We have some friends that actually got up and are explaining. I appreciate you for taking the time to teach a friend. About 30 more seconds. If you haven't had a chance to share yet, maybe you can have that person start to wrap up what they were showing you. so that every person has a chance to share something that they've learned.
Hi, Mr.
Mr. Ward is my name. Good morning.
Sorry, I'm blinking out.
That's all right. No worries. There's a lot of us.
They're supposed to be sharing what they just looked at right now.
I would love for them to share with a friend one thing that they learned. I know I had a teacher one time tell me, hey, I want to show my class all the things I know. And I said, but guess what? They know things too. Let's let them show their friends what they know. All right, I think that's been enough of an opportunity. Now, if you haven't finished sharing, start to wrap up your conversations. In 5, we're bringing it back together. 4, we're bringing it back together. 3, 2, 1. And here's the deal. I want to see if you could do me a favor. If you can take your screens, if you have them, and if you could shark them, if you could close them, if you could lower the screen so that I can see your faces and your faces aren't seeing your screens. I'm looking. Thank you for following directions, Ms. Del Rosa's class. Thank you, Sonora Avila's class. Thank you, Mrs. Razo's class, Mrs. Cho's class. I see you. I appreciate you. So here's the deal. I want to show some things that I'm hoping that maybe you or a friend had shown you. Now, if it were in a classroom with students, I'd bring you up to the front. I would let you show us, but I don't know that it's going to be as easy for us with share screens and all the setups we have. So here's the deal. Let's start off with fraction bars. I don't know and been in some classrooms and I've seen kids do this. They start taking them and they drag them and they stack them like this. Maybe you did this, maybe you didn't, but I've seen some friends do that, okay? Where they go all the way through and they're just stacking them and stacking them and stacking them. And while I do this for a moment, I want you to be thinking about this. What is something that you notice? What is something that you notice about what I've just done here? And again, this is something I've seen some students do. So like, Mr. Ward, we would never do that. Yes, you have. I've seen some friends do this. So my question to you is, what is one thing you might have noticed? I'll get one more on there because I can fit it. What is one thing you might notice? And if you could do me a favor, if you could maybe have a quick turn and talk with someone around you, tell them what's one thing you might have noticed by this up here. You're looking up here, all this stuff. Tell them one thing you noticed. I noticed what? What do you notice on my screen up here? And while your students are sharing, if teachers, if either you can place something in the chat, I see something there waiting for me, or maybe if you could have your class unmute, I would love to hear at least one, if not more, of some things your students might notice when they're looking at this here. Take just one, if maybe you have 2, would be great, but something that your students are noticing, because again, I want to honor their voices and give them a chance to share all their brilliance rather than just doing all the talking and explaining myself, because you know a lot of things already. I see some students in Mrs. Shell's class explaining. Could anyone, again, unmute or place something in the chat? I think I clicked my chat button and it disappeared. I'll find it. Do you see anything there in the chat, Mrs. Ha?
The box size gets smaller and smaller.
Oh, I love that. You're noticing that it seems like it's getting smaller and smaller. Interesting. Now, I don't know if anyone noticed those numbers in terms of what's on the bottom versus what's on the top. We call those numerators and denominators. Did anyone notice that all of my numerators, let's see if I can write here. Yes, you have the ability to write here as well. So if you're a teacher and you have our newer devices with the stylus, you can write on here with our rest of my class. You can use your fingers if it's a touch screen, or your cursor if you have the trackpad on our mouse. But here's what I wanted to point out. You see all of these little things up here. Those are our numerators. And all of our numerators are what, friends? What are they? They're all ones. Yeah, those are called unit fractions. And when my friends were talking about how they were getting smaller, I want to point something out to you. I don't know if you can see that very bottom there. It's kind of small. That fraction is 1/10. And the fraction over here at the top or towards the top is 1/2. Isn't that interesting? If someone said to you, which fraction is bigger? Is it a half or is it a 10th? Do you know what most of my friends or some of my friends might say? They say, Mr. Ward, it's the 10th. And I say, how do you know the 10th is what is bigger? Well, duh, 10 is bigger than 2, Mr. Ward. I learned that back a long time ago in kindergarten. But does that work when we're talking about fractions? Tell the person next to you, are the fractions getting bigger or are the fractions getting smaller? Talk real fast with the person next to you. And if you have something to add in the chat, teachers, from one of your friends, I would love to hear it. Ooh, I love it. I see Miss Lee's class. Thank you for following directions. I see a friend leaning over, explaining to another friend what they noticed. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to pan away from this. And I don't know if you noticed this, but Mathigon's pretty cool in that you don't have a set thing. I could erase, but I could also just move over. And it's like my whiteboard doesn't end. It's pretty cool. So now you played around with fraction bars, but I'm curious if anyone did something like this yet, where there's some buttons right underneath here. We call those renaming, because even though a fraction is what a fraction is, we can change it to different things. Check this out. You can click right here and click this rename button. And I'm going to click it again. I'm going to click it again. And I'm going to click it again. I'm going to keep clicking it. And I want to tell me, what do you notice now? What do you notice now? Talk to someone next to you real fast. What do you notice now? I'm going to keep clicking it because I can. What do you notice now? What is happening? What is happening? Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. What is happening now? Can you tell someone real fast next to you what is happening now when we click that little button? And I promise you, I'll give you some more chances to play with this. Are the fractions getting smaller? Is this any less or any more than one whole? I would say, if you look at it carefully, and we zoom out, maybe you can see it a little better. It's the same size as our one whole piece, right? It's just that we were getting the pieces smaller. Now, can I go the other direction? Of course, I can click that other button, and now the fractions are getting bigger, going back all the way to what I think I started with, which is what I think I started with was a fourth. So those are some ways that you can rename or change fractions. So even though they're the same size piece, we can put them into smaller pieces. Now, I don't know if anyone explored fraction circles, but you can do much of the same thing. I'm going to take this 1/4 piece. I'm going to drop it there and watch. I'm going to grab this little corner here and I'm going to add more. So now I have 2/4. Now I have 3/4. And now I have 4/4. So again, you can grab just like with the corners of these shapes and make them smaller. You can also grab the corner and make them a little bit larger. So it's a way for us to quickly represent fractions. So I'm going to give you about another minute. So you want to open up your devices. And I want to see if you can play around a little bit with what we just saw. And maybe you already saw that. Maybe you already knew that. But I'm going to give you another minute to see what you can try to do with renaming fractions or adding fractions or maybe even writing on that screen there.
They can write on the screen with their mouse, right? If they click on the
If you use the pen feature,
pen
yes, you
feature.
can write with a marker. I'm going to use my mouse right here. This is not the stylus. I know you can't see me there doing that, but I'm going to change the color because my daughter loves purple. And now I can write with purple marker. So I'm going to say what we have here. We have 1/4 and we have over here 4/4.
Yay.
It's a little bit harder when you're writing with the mouse, but of course, if you're a teacher and you have our newer devices, maximize the tech we have available to us, which is using that stylus that provides with it, and you can write right there on that touch screen.
It's very tiny. It's on the very bottom of your laptop.
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
Device.
If you find the word that says ThinkPad in the lower right corner, teachers, just go under the device underneath that bottom corner where it says ThinkPad. You'll locate it. And if you have problems, let us know and we can do our best to support you with that and so much more. All right, friends, it's not very long. I'm going to give you about another 30 more seconds and then we're going to bring it back together because I have some problems for us to solve. All right, can you do me a favor? Put your hands on your head if you can hear me. Put one hand high in the sky and leave one on your head. If you can hear my voice, put 2 hands high in the sky. Awesome. So here's the deal, friends. I want to see if you can try this with Mathigon. Here's the deal. And I don't know if you can see my screen still, but I hope that you can. I want to see if you can find what we call equivalent fraction for 1/2. An equivalent fraction means a fraction that's equal to 1/2. So can you use Mathigon to show me an equivalent fraction for 1/2? And I know there's different ways to do it. Do you have to use the fraction bars? No, but you could. Do you have to use the fraction circles? No, but you could. I just want you to show me how you can make an equivalent fraction for 1/2. And if you're saying, Mr. Ward, come on, I could have done it in 3rd grade. I promise you, we'll up the ante. But for here, we're starting now. Now, as you're processing that out, maybe you could quickly compare or briefly compare with the shoulder partner. Like, hey, this is what I came up with. What did you come up with? I wonder, did you come up with the same fraction? Did you both use fraction bars? Did you both use fraction circles? I don't know what you did. I can't see your screens yet. But I hope you found an equivalent fraction, or at least can figure out a way to get an equivalent fraction for 1/2 using Mathigon. Beautiful. I see some different halves, and I see some of my friends. Thank you, Miss Lee's class. I see you showing me. And look at, I love that. Ooh, I see it. I know. I see you. All right, so if you hopefully you came up with something. I can't see all of your screens, but from what I could see in one of the classrooms, it looks like they use some fraction bars. So here I go. I'm going to take my 1/2 and say, hey, technically, that's not a half, Mr. Ward. I promise you I'll make it a half. Here I go. Now it's a half. And can I come up with any fraction that's equal to a half? There's different things I could do. Sure, I could get this, and I could take this corner and drag it until it's the same length. I could take this, and I can drag that corner until it's the same length. But guess what? I can just start with 1/2. And I can do this thing called renaming that we just saw. And I can just say, a fraction that's equal to 1/2. I'll let Mathigon do the work for me. There you go, 2/4. It's equivalent. Oh, is that the only fraction that's equivalent to 1/2? I don't know, Mathigon, tell me. Oh, no, you could use 3/6. Is there more? Let me click again. Oh, I could do 4/8. All of these different ways with the click of a button to find equivalent fractions. And I know there's some math behind it. I would love to see if maybe later you can talk about what's really happening mathematically. What is Mathigon really doing when it's finding all these equivalent fractions? So here we go. I have another problem for you. Let's see if you can work this one out for me using Mathigon. My problem for you is, let's see if I can get my pen here. 1/4 plus 2/4. Again, 1/4 plus 2/4. Can you use Mathigon to show me what does that look like? Again, the new problem, and I see some of you working hard on that. Thank you, Ms. Linglef's class. We're looking for 1/4 plus 2/4. Can we represent either fraction bars or fraction circles to show us what that looks like? And while you're working hard, I'm going to see if I can do the same. Fraction circles. Here I go. 1/4. I got it. And then 2/4. Let's see if I can do that one. That's not 2/4, but I can make it 2/4. Here it is. And I can say, what is 1/4 and 2/4? Can I put those two pieces together? Now you can totally and absolutely rotate these pictures. I was in one classroom. This friend was like, look, you can turn it like that. And I was like, cool. So there you go. I have 1/4 and 2/4. In total, we're looking at that being, oops, let's get back to my pen, 3/4. Yes. So that's beautiful. Now I have another problem for us to work on, and I appreciate those of you working hard. Thank you, Ms. Cheng. I see your class is raising their hands, wanting to showcase. We're going to move on to our next problem, and I know that we're moving faster for some friends and too slow for some friends. I understand that. Here's our next problem that I'm going to have you see if you can represent here. We're going to look at what is, we'll go with 1/3 plus 4/3. Again, 1/3 plus 4/3. We're talking about thirds now. 1/3 plus, let's see if I can fix that 4 and 4/3. Can you use Mathigon to represent 1/3 plus 4/3? And if you can, what is that? What is 1/3 and 4/3 more? Now I know some of us mentally, we can compute some of this, but I'm challenging us to represent this inside of Mathigon. I have a reason. I want to see if we can conceptually show, hey, we really get this. And let me show you why. Plus, we're unlocking some of these tools that may be new to some friends. For my teacher friends, while my students are working, know that there are a bunch of activities that are already made that you can assign or that you can share. But again, that would require us to generate a class. Do you need to make a class to do what we are currently doing? No. Could you make a class? You sure could. And there's a lot more in here. We're just touching the tip of the iceberg. If you're saying that's great for fractions, but I got other stuff I'm working on, there's a lot of other things here as well. All right, so for 1/3 and 4/3, I'm not sure what my friends did. I'm going to go back to my fraction bars for this one. And I'm curious to say, like, would this be more than one whole or less than one whole? Again, is this more than one whole or less than one whole? Let me go in and get a third here. And I say, okay, well, that's 3/3. That's the same thing as one whole. But I know that I'm not adding 3/3. I'm adding 1/3. So there's my 1/3. This is my first part. And my other part that I'm adding is 4/3. And you might say, well, look, Mr. Ward, that's only 3/3. How am I supposed to get 4/3? Remember, you can drag this and increase it. Let's see if I can do that. Oh, I know I can. There it is. And so now I have 4/3. And so I'm going to put those 4/3 with my 1/3. And I'm going to say, guess what? I have a bunch of thirds. In fact, maybe we can count them. Maybe you can help me count them. Here I go. Here's 1/3. Here's 2/3. Here's 3/3. Here's 4/3. Here's 5/3. I don't know about you, but we talk about these being fractions greater than one. I had one friend tell me, Mr. Ward, that fraction's wrong. And I go, what's wrong about it? And they're like, well, you can't have a numerator that's bigger than the denominator. And I said, why not? Because there's a lot of times in math where you're going to see things written that way. And sometimes it makes more sense to leave it that way. I know sometimes my teacher friends may want you to rename it or simplify it, but I want to be very honest. Sometimes that makes more sense. And it just depends on what we're talking about. So now I have probably time for one or two more problems for us. Let me go ahead and get to the last couple that I have. Let's see if you can use Mathigon to represent the following. Can you solve 2/8 plus 1/2? Again, 2/8 plus 1/2 using Mathigon. Again, knowing that some of you may already mentally be able to solve and have the solution to that. But again, we're trying to see in Mathigon, can I show what does 2/8 plus 1/2 look like? We're finished at 9 a.m. Is that correct, Mrs. Ah? Yeah. So this will probably be our last one. We didn't get to our comparison or our multiplication, and that is A-okay. All right, friends, on this last one, and I know some of you are still working. Let's see if I can show this. I'm going to go and grab the 8ths, and I'm going to say, okay, I don't want all the 8/8 or 1 whole. Instead, I only want 2/8. So there's my 2/8. I have it. Cool. Now I need to get my half. Okay, here I go. I'm getting my half. Again, that is 2/2, or that is 1 whole right now. And I only need 1/2. So let me go. I take it down. Now I have a half. Can I just put those together and say, okay, cool. I have an answer. I have, wait a minute. Those are different things. I can't just put those together. Did anyone say, how could I find a common either denominator or a fraction that's the same? Maybe you made the 1/2. Wait, are those the same yet? Nah. Are those the same yet? Nah. Wait, I think they are. I think they are the same now. That 1/2 just renamed into 4/8. And now I can combine those two fractions. So what we're talking about here, and let me get my pen out back again, change that color. We'll go over to black. We're talking about here having our very different size 8s. Can you count with me? There's 1/8. Now it's 2/8. Now it's 3/8. Now it's 4/8. Now it's 5/8. Now it's 6/8. 6/8 would be our solution for that. Now, if you're saying to yourself, what I don't want to keep it 8s. Is there another way that I could say that fraction? And I think that there is. Let's see if I can highlight this, and let's see if I can rename it into something else. Oh, interesting. I could rename that fraction that was originally 6/8 also as saying it's 3/4. And if you're saying, well, is that more than a whole or less than a whole, Mr. Ward? I'm not sure. We could always get our handy dandy whole back out and see, well, it looks like it might be less than a whole. So here's the deal, friends. Mathigon has so much to offer. And I know that you probably know more than I've even had a chance to hear because you are some mathematical experts, and I appreciate you for all the math thinking that you do on a daily basis. Would you mind maybe telling your friend next to you one thing you learned in our time together? And it could be something you learned with fractions. It could be something you learned with Mathigon, but just tell your shoulder partner, what's one thing you learned in our time together in a brief moment? And then I'm curious, teachers, if either you yourself could unmute or if maybe your students could place in the chat, what's something that they learned in our brief time together? And thank you again for taking the time from your busy schedules to join us. We appreciate all of you, students and teachers alike. Happy Friday, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being here. Did you want a quick photo, Mrs. Ha, with everyone's computers, or is that not
Sure.
something we're doing?
Let's do a photo if everyone can.
I took a shower today, so I'm all good. I'm ready for this one.
Can put their cameras on. That'd be great.
Look at that, representing and flexing Mrs. Lee's class with the showing her, show me all the things you know. I love it. Appreciate you.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, hold on. I don't have everyone on yet. 1 second. I got my
She's just messing with us, y'all. She's messing with us.
sorry. One more time. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Well, thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. I hope
for
you have a
coming.
great rest of
Everyone
your day.
say, you're amazing. Everyone say, I'm amazing.
I'm amazing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hurry.
Bye, friends.
Have a good day.
Bye, Miss Salcedo.